Welcome back to the Brian DeVore Connection. I'm your host, Brian DeVore. There are a lot of legal challenges that seniors face in San Diego, but legal aid can be expensive. Well, the good news is there's a wonderful nonprofit organization that provides legal services for seniors, and they are Elder Law and Advocacy. And here to talk about them today is their executive director, Jaime Levine. Jaime, how are you?
Good. Thank you for having me here today, Brian.
Yeah, my pleasure. So you and I have talked before about your services. We even did a little interview during COVID on Zoom, but I wanted to bring you in the studio face to face so we could do this again, because I think it's important to talk about the legal challenges that seniors are facing and how you guys help with that. So tell us about Elder Law and Advocacy.
Elder Law and Advocacy is a nonprofit law firm, so very similar to legal aid. And the real distinction is that we just focus on seniors. So we have a lot of different programs. We've been around for over 40 years, and we help over 4,000, actually over 6,000 people a year.
Wow.
Through a variety of different programs that we run.
That's amazing. How do seniors typically find out about what you guys do and how you can help?
Since we've been around for so long, we're known in the community. So social workers know us, ombudsmen know us, the district attorney's office, law enforcement. So a lot of the referrals we get are from organizations and professionals sort of in the community who know about us. And then of course we have a website, and so people do find us online.
Right. I'm sure people come in with a variety of legal issues. So maybe give some examples, and then what's generally your focus in the direction that you take people with?
Well, as I said, we have a lot of different programs. The legal services program helps seniors with all kinds of things, so it's very diverse. We the only criteria actually to become a client is being over 60 and residing in either San Diego County or Imperial County.
Okay.
But other than that, pretty much anyone can call us. So if you're talking about the issues we really handle, those would be things like housing, tenancy issues, debt issues, consumer issues, scams when seniors are victims of scams, for example, and then planning issues as well. So obviously people have to do some kind of estate planning. We're not an estate planning firm, but we can help with powers of attorney, and we can certainly guide people in terms of the kinds of documents they should have in place.
Got it. Is there any sort of income requirement, or do they have to reach a certain level or maybe fall below a certain level?
Actually, there is not, and that surprises a lot of people. And it's not actually our preference, it's a requirement. Some of our funders do not allow us to have an income requirement. But our clients are underserved just because by virtue of their being seniors. So.
Right. And I think a lot of seniors probably, if they're faced with a legal challenge, like for example they're being evicted or some situation with their tenancy, they're afraid to do anything, and the first thing they think of is, if I have to hire a lawyer, this is going to be super expensive, I just won't deal with it. And then they continue to have the same problems. If they just knew that they could get this type of service, they would have a fighting chance, I think.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, pretty much anyone over 60 should have us on speed dial.
Right.
There's certainly a huge need for what we do, and you're actually very accurate in terms of naming a situation, which is someone who has a need but doesn't have a case that really is big enough for a private attorney to take it on. Mm-hmm. Or it's just going to be too expensive. And those situations are perfect for what we do, and that's sort of the void that we fill.
Right. Have you seen the issues grow since the pandemic? Tenancy issues or other issues that have come up?
The pandemic affected us in a variety of ways. One is, during the pandemic itself, there were all kinds of protections for seniors in terms of tenancy. So nobody could be evicted. And so what ended up happening was the landlords ended up just being in a situation where they couldn't evict. There were moratoria, state, local, municipal, and eventually, actually very recently, all of those moratoria ended. So now all the pent-up demand for evictions is upon us. So we do help many, many seniors with tenancy issues right now. And then there were certain scams that became very popular during COVID, because a lot of seniors, especially when you're talking about people 80 years old, 90 years old, had decided they weren't going to use technology.
Yeah.
They didn't have a smartphone, they didn't want a computer, they were just going to finish off their lives without having to work on that stuff. But in the context of COVID, that wasn't possible. You couldn't do your banking. You couldn't really go do all kinds of things during COVID. And so they had to start using those platforms. And they were taken advantage of. There was one scam in particular where there was a communication with seniors that said they had bought something on Amazon, and they hadn't. And so there was an 800 number, usually it was an email. They would call the 800 number. The answering party would say Amazon.com, which was a lie. And then the person who was victimizing the senior would convince them to give access to their computer. And the person victimizing the senior would go into the bank account on the computer of the senior and put money into their account through one of their own accounts, and then say that they had made a mistake giving a refund. And then they would convince the senior to wire $40,000, $50,000.
It's crazy.
Yeah. And so we saw many cases like that.
It's amazing to me how many scams there are like that out there. And there's a whole other topic we could talk about all the scams that are out there and how to avoid them. I think first and foremost, so they should at least know if something happens that's kind of fishy, they should reach out to you for some free legal advice, for sure. Let's talk about One Safe Place. One Safe Place is an organization that provides, it's sort of a one-stop shop for people who have all kinds of issues. And the Family Justice Center is in downtown San Diego. One Safe Place is in San Marcos. Talk about that, your collaboration with them.
Yeah. One Safe Place, or also known as the North County Family Justice Center, is a 40,000 square foot facility that was set up by the district attorney. And it's a collaboration between law enforcement and legal services organizations and all kinds of other organizations all of it is aimed at helping people who are victims of abuse of some kind. It's not just seniors. We have one attorney who actually works out of One Safe Place, and he does pretty much exclusively elder abuse restraining orders. So he helps people get restraining orders when they are elderly and they're victims of abuse. And he's also starting an elder abuse litigation program that's going to expand that. But it's a fantastic collaboration. It's amazing for us to be able to be co-situated with law enforcement and with those other organizations. I really have to hand it to the district attorney for putting that together.
Yeah, it's great because it's like I said, a one-stop shop. A lot of times people are prevented from, handling issues because they have to go to this place, then they have to go across town to this place, and they're just like, forget it, I won't do it. They know there's one place they can go for all the things they need. Nonprofit organizations are there, the whole 9 yards. They can get help.
Yeah.
Talk about some of the legal service programs you have related to homelessness.
Well, as I said, homelessness has become a huge issue. Well, I mean, what I said is there are more tenancy issues right now because the people are being evicted. But for low-income seniors, when you get evicted and you live in a place like San Diego that's very expensive, the logical end to that is homelessness or potential homelessness. And homelessness is awful for anyone, but for seniors it's even more precarious because they're elderly, they may have disabilities. It's just a fixed income. So it's a very difficult situation to be in as a senior. So the state of California, recognizing that there is this need, has put money into homelessness prevention, and especially for seniors. So we have been expanding our homelessness prevention efforts. We've always helped tenants with their tenancy issues, senior tenants. But now we have an attorney who's just dedicated to helping people avoid homelessness. If they're in a situation where their landlord is doing something improper, we can often prevent the eviction. If it's a situation where the landlord is in a situation where they do have the legal right to evict someone, that makes it very difficult for us, but we are still trying to find some kind of soft landing. We get them more time. We negotiate some type of exit that is safe for the senior so that they end up somewhere where they have security. So that's become a focus of ours as well.
You know, what you guys do is a huge, I think, a sigh of relief for seniors who feel like there's no hope, and to try to battle the legal system, you know, is mind-boggling for them. But to know they have someone who can assist, is on their side, they can get those services they need. It's an incredible service. Your information and the contact information for elder law and advocacy is on the screen. You don't even have to pull this information up in your Rolodex, as Jaime and I have talked about Rolodex before. It's right there on the screen. You can call them, look at their email address and your website as well to get all the information. Jaime, thank you very much for coming and sharing everything you guys do.
Thank you, Brian. I really appreciate the opportunity.
My pleasure.